Alaric at Rome by Matthew Arnold. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Admire, exult, despise, laugh, weep, for here there is such matter for all feeling. Childe Harold. Unwelcome shroud of the forgotten dead, Oblivion's dreary fountain, where art thou? Why speed'st thou not thy death-like wave to shed o'er humbled pride and self-reproaching woe? Or time's stern hand, why blots it not away, the saddening tale that tells of sorrow and decay? There are whose glory passeth not away, even in the grave their fragrance cannot fade. Others there are, as deathless full as they, who for themselves a monument have made by their own crimes, a lesson to all eyes, of wonder to the fool, of warning to the wise. Yes, there are stories registered on high. Yes, there are stains time's fingers cannot blot, deeds that shall live when they who did them die, things that may cease but never be forgot. Yet some there are their very lives would give to be remembered thus, and yet they cannot live. But thou, imperial city, thou hast stood in greatness once, in sackcloth now and tears, a mighty name for evil or for good, even in the loneness of thy widowed years. Thou that hast gazed, as the world hurried by, upon its headlong course with sad prophetic eye. Is thine the laurel crown that greatness wreathes round the wan temples of the hallowed dead? Is it the blighting taint dishonor breathes in fires undying o'er the guilty head? Or the brief splendor of that meteor light that for a moment gleams, and all again is night? Fain would we deem that thou hast risen so high, thy dazzling light an eagle's gaze should tire. No meteor brightness to be seen and die, no passing pageant, born but to expire, but full and deathless as the deep dark hue of ocean's sleeping face, or heaven's unbroken blue. Yet stains there are to blot thy brightest page, and wither half the laurels on thy tomb. A glorious manhood, yet a dim old age, and years of crime and nothingness and gloom. And then that mightiest crash, that giant fall, ambition's boldest dream might sober and appall. Thou wondrous chaos, where together dwell present and past, the living and the dead. Thou shattered mass, whose glorious ruins tell the vanished might of that discrowned head, where all we see or do or hear or say seems strangely echoed back by tones of yesterday. Thou solemn grave, where every step we tread treads on the slumbering dust of other years, the while there sleeps within thy precincts dread what once had human passions, hopes, and fears. And memory's gushing tide swells deep and full, and makes thy very ruin fresh and beautiful. Alas, no common sepulchre art thou, no habitation for the nameless dead, green turf above and crumbling dust below, perchance some mute memorial at their head, but one vast fane where all unconscious sleep, earth's old heroic forms in peaceful slumbers deep. Thy dead are kings, thy dust are palaces, relics of nations thy memorial stones, and the dim glories of departed days fold like a shroud around thy withered bones. And o'er thy towers the wind's half-uttered sigh whispers, in mournful tones, thy silent elegy. Yes, in such eloquent silence didst thou lie when the Goth stooped upon his stricken prey, and the deep hues of an Italian sky flashed on the rude barbarian's wild array, while full and ceaseless as the ocean roll, horde after horde streamed up thy frowning capital. Twice ere that day of shame, the embattled foe had gazed and wondered on that glorious sight. Twice had the eternal city bowed her low in sullen homage to the invader's might. Twice had the pageant of that vast array swept from thy walls, O Rome, on its triumphant way. Twice from without thy bulwarks hath the din of Gothic clarion smote thy startled ear. Anger and strife and sickness are within. Famine and sorrow are no strangers here. Twice hath the cloud hung o'er thee, twice been stayed, even in the act to burst, twice threatened, twice delayed. Yet once again, stern chief, yet once again, pour forth the foaming vials of thy wrath. There lies thy goal, to miss or to attain. Gird thee, and on upon thy fateful path. The world hath bowed to Rome. O cold were he who would not burst his bonds, and in his turn be free. Therefore arise and arm thee. Lo, the world looks on in fear, and when the seal is set, the doom pronounced, the battle flag unfurled, scourge of the nations, wouldst thou linger yet? Arise and arm thee, spread thy banners forth, pour from 1,000 hills thy warriors of the north. Hast thou not marked on a wild autumn day, when the sun slumbereth in a sudden lull, what death-like stillness o'er the landscape lay? How calmly sad, how sadly beautiful, how each bright tint of tree and flower and heath were mingled with the sere and withered hues of death. And thus, beneath the clear, calm vault of heaven, in mournful loveliness that city lay. And thus, amid the glorious hues of even, that city told of languor and decay, till what at morning's hour looked warm and bright, was cold and sad beneath that breathless, voiceless night. Soon was the stillness broken, like the cry of the hoarse onset of the surging wave, or louder rush of whirlwinds sweeping by, was the wild shout those Gothic myriads gave, as towered on high above their moonlit road scenes where a Caesar triumphed or a Scipio trod. Think ye it strikes too slow, the sword of fate? Think ye the avenger loiters on his way, that your own hands must open wide the gate, and your own voice guide him to his prey? Alas, it needs not. It is hard to know fate's threatenings are not vain, the spoiler comes not slow. And were there none to stand and weep alone, and as the pageant swept before their eyes, to hear a dim and long forgotten tone tell of old times and holiest memories, till fanciful regret and dreamy woe peopled night's voiceless shades with forms of long ago? Oh yes, if fancy feels, beyond today, thoughts of the past and of the future time, how should that mightiest city pass away, and not bethink her of her glorious prime, whilst every chord that thrills at thoughts of home jarred with the bursting shout, "They come, the Goth, they come!" The trumpet swells yet louder, they are here. Yea, on your fathers' bones the avengers tread. Not this the time to weep upon the bier that holds the ashes of your hero dead. If wreaths may twine for you, or laurels wave, they shall not deck your life, but sanctify your grave. Alas, no wreaths are here. Despair may teach cowards to conquer, and the weak to die. Nor tongue of man, nor fear, nor shame can preach so stern a lesson as necessity. Yet here it speaks not. Yea, though all around unhallowed feet are trampling on this haunted ground. Though every holiest feeling, every tie that binds the heart of man with mightiest power, all natural love, all human sympathy be crushed and outraged in this bitter hour. Here is no echo to the sound of home, no shame that suns should rise to light a conquered Rome. That troublous night is over. On the brow of thy stern hill, thou mighty capital, one form stands gazing. Silently below, the morning mists from tower and temple roll, and lo, the eternal city, as they rise, bursts in majestic beauty on her conqueror's eyes. Yes, there he stood upon that silent hill, and there beneath his feet his conquest lay, unlike that ocean city, gazing still, smilingly forth upon her sunny bay, but o'er her vanished might and humbled pride, mourning as a widowed Venice o'er her Adrian tide. Breathe there not spirits on the peopled air? Float there not voices on the murmuring wind? Oh, sound there not some strains of sadness there, to touch with sorrow even a victor's mind, and wrest one tear from joy? Oh, who shall pen the thoughts that touch thy breast, thou lonely conqueror then? Perchance his wandering heart was far away, lost in dim memories of his early home, and his young dreams of conquest, how to-day beheld him master of imperial Rome, crowning his wildest hopes. Perchance his eyes, as they looked sternly on, beheld new victories, new dreams of wide dominion, mightier, higher, come floating up from the abyss of years. Perchance that solemn sight might quench the fire even of that ardent spirit. Hopes and fears might well be mingling at that murmured sigh, whispering from all around, all earthly things must die. Perchance that wondrous city was to him but as one voiceless blank, a place of graves, and recollections indistinct and dim, whose sons were conquerors once, and now were slaves. It may be in that desolate sight his eye saw but another step to climb to victory. Alas, that fiery spirit little knew the change of life, the nothingness of power, how both were hastening as they flowered and grew, nearer and nearer to their closing hour, how every birth of time's miraculous womb swept off the withered leaves that hide the naked tomb. One little year that restless soul shall rest, that frame of vigor shall be crumbling clay, and tranquillity above that troubled breast the sunny waters hold their joyous way, and gently shall the murmuring ripples flow, nor wake the weary soul that slumbers on below. Alas, far other thoughts might well be ours, and dash our holiest raptures while we gaze. Energies wasted, unimproved hours, the saddening visions of departed days. And while they rise here, might we stand alone, and mingle with thy ruins somewhat of our own. Beautiful city, if departed things ever again put earthly likeness on, here should 1,000 forms on fancy's wings float up to tell of ages that are gone. Yea, though hand touch thee not, nor eye should see, still should the spirit hold communion roam with thee. Oh, it is bitter that each fairest dream should fleet before us but to melt away, that wildest visions still should loveliest seem, and soonest fade in the broad glare of day, that while we feel the world is dull and low, gazing on thee, we wake to find it is not so. A little while, alas, a little while, and the same world has tongue, and ear, and eye, the careless glance, the cold unmeaning smile, the thoughtless word, the lack of sympathy. Who would not turn him from the barren sea and rest his weary eyes on the green land and thee? So pass we on, but oh, to harp aright the vanished glories of thine early day. There needs a minstrel of diviner might, a holier incense than this feeble lay, to chant thy requiem with more passionate breath, and twine with bolder hand thy last memorial wreath. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Epitaphs on Mrs. Oldfield by Various. Published in 1731. Read for LibriVox.org. Fashioned alike by nature and by art, to please, engage, and interest every heart, in public life by all who saw approved, in private life by all who knew her loved. Oldfield lies here retired, undressed, the curtain drawn, her part is done. Ye that remain to act your best must also make your exit soon. How happy then, if worthy praise, ye can such lasting plaudits raise. Exit Anna Oldfield, valet and plaudite. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Arctic Voyager by Henry Timrod. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Shall I desist, twice baffled? Once by land and once by sea I fought and strove with storms, all shades of danger, tides and weary calms, head currents, cold and famine, savage beasts and men more savage. All the while my face looked northward toward the pole. If mortal strength could have sustained me, I had never turned till I had seen the star which never sets freeze in the Arctic zenith. That I failed to solve the mysteries of the ice-bound world was not because I faltered in the quest. Witness those pathless forests which conceal the bones of perished comrades, that long march, blood-tracked o'er flint and snow, and one dread night by Athabasca, when a cherished life flowed to give life to others. This and worse I suffered. Let it pass. It has not tamed my spirit, nor the faith which was my strength. Despite of waning years, despite the world which doubts, and few who dare, I purpose now, a purpose long and thoughtfully resolved through all its grounds of reasonable hope, to seek beyond the ice which guards the pole a sea of open water. For I hold, not without proofs, that such a sea exists, and may be reached, though since this earth was made no keel has ploughed it, and to mortal ear no wind hath told its secrets. With this tide I sail. If all be well, this very moon shall see my ship beyond the southern cape of Greenland, and far up the bay, through which with diamond spire and gorgeous pinnacle the fleets of winter pass to warmer seas. Whether, my hardy shipmates, we shall reach our bourne, and come with tales of wonder back, or whether we shall lose the precious time, locked in thick ice, or whether some strange fate shall end us all, I know not. But I know a lofty hope, if earnestly pursued, is its own crown, and never in this life is labor wholly fruitless. In this faith I shall not count the chances, sure that all a prudent foresight asks we shall not want, and all that bold and patient hearts can do, yet will not leave undone. The rest is God's. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Auf dem Heimweg by Mary Keely Buttell. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Auf dem Heimweg. Thy light streams far, thou gladdening star, over vale and forest, tower and town. From land and sea men look to thee, in every clime, as night comes down. But ah, were all the eyes that mark thy rising closed in endless dark, undimmed would glitter still thy bright, unpitying spark. I heed thee not. In yonder cot, as home I haste, from toil set free, through dusk and damp the casement lamp shines clear across the fields for me. Dear light, dear heart, how well I know, if bitter death should lay me low, dark would that casement be, and quenched your winsome glow. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Ballad of Departed Pippins by Anonymous. Read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. The Ballad of Departed Pippins. Some way after Villon and Rossetti. Tell me now, where has it departed, that fine old apple, the ribstone pippin, the rosy-coated and juicy-hearted I loved when a nipper my teeth to slip in. Where is the russet we boys thought rippin', though its sharpness sometimes started the tears? Oh, such like often I've spent my tip in, but where are the apples of earlier years? Where's the king pippin, the sun-brown one, and where is the cat's head, light spring green, which gave, while eating, such glorious fun, if after munching some Jule and teen? And where is the golden knob, whose sheen would draw the wasps all about our ears, sometimes in our mouth, if they were not seen? But where are the apples of earlier years? White watery things from the land of the Yankee, and sugary shams from the austral seas, they sell us at 6 per pound. No, thank'ee, I have no palate for frauds like these. There's not an apple that now could please poor Eve so much as to waken fears. Ah, the luscious pippins youth crunched at ease, but where are the apples of earlier years? Nay, never ask if your fruiterers heard of a decent pippin, the huckster sneers, except with this for an overword. But where are the apples of earlier years? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Excerpt from The Battle of Lora, a poem, by James Macpherson, published in 1792. Read for LibriVox.org. Son of a distant land, who dwelleth in the secret cell, do I hear the sound of thy grove, or is it thy voice of songs? The torrent was loud in my ear, but I heard a tuneful voice. Dost thou praise the chiefs of thy land, or the spirits of the wind? But lonely dweller of rocks, look thou on that heathy plain. Thou seest green tombs with their rank whistling grass, with their stones of mossy heads. Thou seest them, son of the rock, but Ocean's eyes have failed. A mountain stream comes roaring down, and sends its waters round a green hill. 4 mossy stones in the midst of withered grass rear their heads on the top. 2 trees, which the storms have bent, spread their whistling branches around. This is thy dwelling, Aragon, this thy narrow house. The sound of thy shells have been long forgot in Sora. Thy shield is become dark in thy hall, Aragon, king of ships, chief of distant Sora. How hast thou fallen on our mountains? How is the mighty low? Son of the secret cell, dost thou delight in songs? Hear the battle of Lora. The sound of its steel is long since past. So thunder on the darkened hill roars, and is no more. The sun returns with his silent beams. The glittering rocks and green heads of the mountains smile. The bay of Kona received our ships from Erin's rolling waves. Our white sheets hung loose to the masts. The boisterous winds roared behind the groves of Morven. The horn of the king is sounded. The deer starts from their rocks. Our arrows flew in the woods. The feast of the hill is spread. Our joy was great on our rocks for the fall of the terrible Swaran. 2 heroes were forgot at our feast. The rage of their bosoms burned. They rolled their red eyes in secret. The sigh bursts from their breasts. They were seen to talk together and to throw their spears on earth. They were 2 dark clouds in the midst of our joy, like pillars of mist on the settled sea. They glitter to the sun, but the mariners fear a storm. Raise my white sails, said Maronen, raise them to the winds of the west. Let us rush, O Aldo, through the foam of the northern wave. We are forgot at the feast, but our arms have been red in blood. Let us leave the hills of Fingal and serve the king of Sora. His countenance is fierce, war darkens around his spear. Let us be renowned, O Aldo, in the battles of other lands. They took their swords, their shields of thongs. They rushed to Lumar's resounding bay. They came to Sora's haughty king, the chief of bounding steeds. Aragon had returned from the chase. His spear was red in blood. He bent his dark face to the ground, and whistled as he went. He took the strangers to his feasts. They fought and conquered in his wars. End of this excerpt. This recording is in the public domain.
A blood-red ring hung round the moon, by John E. Logan. Read for LibriVox.org, by Thomas Peter. A blood-red ring hung round the moon, hung round the moon. Ah me, ah me! I heard the piping of the loon, a wounded loon. Ah me! And yet the eagle feathers rare, I trembling, wove in my brave's hair. He left me in the early morn, the early morn. Ah me, ah me! The feathers swayed like stately corn, so like the corn. Ah me! A fierce wind swept across the plain. The stately corn was snapped in twain. They crushed in blood the hated race, the hated race. Ah me, ah me! I only clasped a cold, blind face, his cold, dead face. Ah me! A blood-red ring hangs in my sight. I hear the loon cry every night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Boy's Song by James Hogg, 1770 to 1835. Read for LibriVox.org by Peter Thomlinson. Where the pools are bright and deep, where the grey trout lies asleep, up the river and over the lea, that's the way for Billy and me. Where the blackbird sings the latest, where the hawthorn blooms the sweetest, where the nestlings chirp and flee, that's the way for Billy and me. Where the mowers mow the cleanest, where the hay lies thick and greenest, there to track the homeward bee, that's the way for Billy and me. Where the hazel bank is steepest, where the shadow falls the deepest, where the clustering nuts fall free, that's the way for Billy and me. Why the boys should drive away little sweet maidens from the play, or love to banter and fight so well, that's the thing I never could tell. But this I know, I love to play through the meadow among the hay, up the water and over the lea, that's the way for Billy and me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Circe by H.D. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. It was easy enough to bend them to my wish. It was easy enough to alter them with a touch. But you, adrift on the great sea, how shall I call you back? Cedar and white ash, rock cedar and sand plants and tamarisk, red cedar and white cedar and black cedar from the inmost forest, fragrance upon fragrance, and all of my sea magic is for naught. It was easy enough. A thought called them from the sharp edges of the earth. They prayed for a touch. They cried for the sight of my face. They entreated me, till in pity I turned each to his own self. Panther and panther, then a black leopard follows close. Black panther and red, and a great hound, a godlike beast, cut the sand in a clear ring, and shut me from the earth, and cover the sea sound with their throats, and the sea roar with her own barks and bellowings and snarls, and the sea stars, and the swirl of the sand, and the rock tamarisk, and the wind resonance, but not your voice. It is easy enough to call men from the edges of the earth. It is easy enough to summon them to my feet with a thought. It is beautiful to see the tall panther and the sleek deerhounds circle in the dark. It is easy enough to make cedar and white ash fumes into palaces, and to cover the sea caves with ivory and onyx. But I would give up rock fringes of coral, and the inmost chamber of my island palace, and my own gifts, and the whole region of my power and magic for your glance. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Comet, October 1858, by Charles Sangster. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Erratic soul of some great purpose, doomed to track the wild illimitable space, till sure propitiation has been made for the divine commission unperformed. What was thy crime? Ahasuerus' curse were not more stern on earth than thine in heaven. Art thou the spirit of some angel world, for grave rebellion banished from thy peers, compelled to watch the calm immortal stars circling in rapture the celestial void, while the avenger follows in thy train to spur thee on to wretchedness eterne, or one of nature's wildest fantasies, from which she flies in terror so profound, and with such whirl of torment in her breast that mighty earthquakes yearn where'er she treads, while war makes red its terrible right hand, and famine stalks abroad all lean and wan. To us thou art as exquisitely fair as the ideal visions of the seer, or gentlest fancy that e'er floated down imagination's bright unruffled stream, wedding the thought that was too deep for words to the low breathings of inspired song. When the stars sang together o'er the birth of the poor babe in Bethlehem, that lay in the coarse manger at the crowded inn, didst thou perhaps a bright exalted star refuse to swell the grand harmonious lay, jealous as Herod of the birth divine? Or when the crown of thorns on Calvary pierced the Redeemer's brow, didst thou disdain to weep when all the planetary worlds were blinded by the fullness of their tears? E'en to the flaming sun that hid his face at the loud cry, Lama Sabachthani, no rest, no rest. The very damned have that in dark councils of remotest hell, where the dead scheme was perfected that sealed thy disobedience and accruing doom. Like Adam's sons, hast thou, too, forfeited the blessed repose that never pillowed sin? No, none can tell thy fate, thou wandering Sphinx. Pale science, searching by the midnight lamp through the vexed mazes of the human brain, still fails to read the secret of its soul, as the superb enigma flashes by, a loose Prometheus burning with disdain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Credo by Alfred Krainborg. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. I sing the will to love, the will that carves the will to live, the will that saps the will to hurt, the will that kills the will to die, the will that made and keeps you warm, the will that points your eyes ahead, the will that makes you give, not get, a give and get that tell us what you are, how much a god, how much a human. I call on you to live the will to love. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Death Be Not Proud by John Donne. Read for LibriVox.org by Peter Thomlinson. Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow die not, poor Death, nor yet canst thou kill me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure then from thee, much more must flow, and soonest our best men with thee do go, rest of their bones and souls' delivery. Thou art slave to fate, chance, kings, and desperate men, and dost with poison, war, and sickness dwell, and poppy or charms can make us sleep as well, and better than thy stroke. Why swellest thou then? One short sleep pass, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more. Death, thou shalt die. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dread Voyage by William Wilfred Campbell. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Dread Voyage. Trim the sails the weird stars under, past the iron hail and thunder, past the mystery and the wonder, sails our fated bark. Past the myriad voices hailing, past the moaning and the wailing, the far voices failing, drive we to the dark. Past the headlands grim and sombre, past the shores of mist and slumber, leagues on leagues no man may number, soundings none can mark. While the olden voices calling, one by one behind are falling, into silence dread, appalling, drift we to the dark. Far behind the sad eyes yearning, hands that ring for our returning, lamps of love yet vainly burning, past the headlands stark. Through the wintry snows and sleeting, on our pallid faces beating, through the phantom twilight fleeting, drive we to the dark. Without knowledge, without warning, drive we to no lands of morning, far ahead no signals horning, hail our nightward bark. Hopeless, helpless, weird, outdriven, fateless, friendless, dread, unshriven, for some race doom unforgiven, drive we to the dark. Not one craven or unseemly, in the flare light gleaming dimly, each ghost face is watching grimly, past the headlands stark. Hearts wherein no hope may waken, like the clouds of night wind shaken, chartless, anchorless, forsaken, drift we to the dark. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Friendship After Love by Ella Wilcox Wheeler. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. After the fierce midsummer, all ablaze, has burned itself to ashes and expires in the intensity of its own fires, there come the mellow, mild St. Martin days, crowned with the calm of peace, but sad with haze. So after love has led us, till he tires of his own throes and torments and desires, comes large-eyed friendship with a restful gaze. He beckons us to follow, and across cool verdant vales we wander, free from care. Is it a touch of frost lies in the air? Why are we haunted with a sense of loss? We do not wish the pain back, or the heat, and yet, these days are incomplete. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Fringford Brook by Violet Jacob. Read for LibriVox.org by Nan Dodge. The willows stand by Fringford Brook, from Fringford up to Heath, sun on their cloudy silver heads and shadow underneath. They ripple to the silent airs that stir the lazy day, now whitened by their passing hands, now turned again to grey. The slim marsh thistle's purple plume droops tasselled on the stem. The golden hawkweeds pierce like flame the grass that harbours them. Long drowning tresses of the weeds trail where the stream is slow. The vapoured mauves of water mints melt in the pools below. Serenely soft September sheds on earth her slumberous look. The heartbreak of an anguished world throbs not by Fringford Brook. All peace is here beyond our range, yet 'neath the self-same sky the boys that knew these fields of hame by Flemish willows lie. They waded in the sunshot flow, they loitered in the shade, who trod the heavy road of death, jesting and unafraid. Peace, what of peace? This glimpse of peace lies at the heart of pain. For respite ere the spirit's load we stoop to lift again. O load of grief, of faith, of wrath, of patient quenchless will, till God shall ease us of your weight, we'll bear you higher still. O ghosts that walk by Fringford Brook, 'tis more than peace you give, for you who knew so well to die shall teach us how to live. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Gerontion by T.S. Eliot. Read for LibriVox.org by Epitaphs. Thou hast nor youth nor age, but as it were an after-dinner sleep, dreaming of both. Here I am, an old man in a dry month, being read to by a boy waiting for rain. I was neither at the hot gates, nor fought in the warm rain, nor knee-deep in the salt marsh, heaving a cutlass, bitten by flies, fought. My house is a decayed house, and the Jew squats on the window-sill, the owner, spawned in some estaminet of Antwerp, blistered in Brussels, patched and peeled in London. The goat coughs at night in the field overhead, rocks, moss, stone crop, iron, merds. The woman keeps the kitchen, makes tea, sneezes at evening, poking the peevish gutter. I, an old man, a dull head among windy spaces. Signs are taken for wonders. We would see a sign. The word within a word, unable to speak a word, swaddled with darkness. In the juvescence of the year came Christ the tiger. In depraved May, dogwood and chestnut, flowering Judas, to be eaten, to be divided, to be drunk among whispers, by Mr. Silvero with caressing hands at Limoges, who walked all night in the next room, by Hakagawa bowing among the Titians, by Madame de Turnquist in the dark room shifting the candles, Fräulein von Kulp, who turned in the hall, one hand on the door, vacant shuttles weave the wind. I have no ghosts, an old man in a draughty house, under a windy knob. After such knowledge, what forgiveness? Think now, history has many cunning passages, contrived corridors and issues, deceives with whispering ambitions, guides us by vanities. Think now, she gives when our attention is distracted, and what she gives with such supple confusions that the giving famishes the craving, gives too late what's not believed in, or if still believed, in memory only reconsidered passion, gives too soon into weak hands what's thought can be dispensed with, till the refusal propagates a fear. Think neither fear nor courage saves us. Unnatural vices are fathered by our heroism. Virtues are forced upon us by our impudent crimes. These tears are shaken from the wrath-bearing tree. The tiger springs in the new year. Us he devours. Think at last we have not reached conclusion when I stiffen in a rented house. Think at last I have not made the show purposelessly, and it is not by any concitation of the backward devils. I would meet you upon this honestly. I that was near your heart was removed therefrom to lose beauty and terror, terror and inquisition. I have lost my passion. Why should I need to keep it, since what is kept must be adulterated? I have lost my sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. How should I use it for your closer contact? Those with 1,000 small deliberations protract the profit of their chilled delirium, excite the membrane when the sense is cooled, with pungent sauces, multiply variety in a wilderness of mirrors. What will the spider do? Suspend its operations? Will the weevil delay? De Bale, Hoche, Fresca, Mrs. Campbell, whirled beyond the circuit of the shuddering bare and fractured atoms, gull against the wind, in the windy straits of Belle Isle, or running on the Horn, white feathers in the snow the Gulf claims, and an old man driven by the trades to a sleepy corner, tenants of the house, thoughts of a dry brain in a dry season. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Figlia Che Piange by T.S. Eliot, read for LibriVox.org by Eva Davis. O quam te memorem, Virgo. Stand on the highest pavement of the stair. Lean on a garden urn. Weave, weave the sunlight in your hair. Clasp your flowers to you with a pained surprise. Fling them to the ground and turn with a fugitive resentment in your eyes. But weave, weave the sunlight in your hair. So I would have had him leave. So I would have had her stand and grieve. So he would have left as the soul leaves the body torn and bruised, as the mind deserts the body it is used. I should find some way incomparably light and deft, some way we both should understand, simple and faithless as a smile and a shake of the hand. She turned away, but with the autumn weather compelled my imagination many days and many hours, her hair over her arms, and her arms full of flowers. And I wonder how they should have been together. I should have lost a gesture and a pose. Sometimes these cogitations still amaze the troubled midnight and the noon's repose. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Melody by Rabindranath Tata, read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. Oh, sweet the hymn and tune, oh, sweet the song of June, oh, mellow, mellow, mellow still flows the panting, panting rill, over sand and over dune, singing, ringing, dancing, glancing flows the rill, merrily, merrily, merrily down the hill. June 1902. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Miserrimus by Richard Henry Stoddard, read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. He has passed away from a world of strife, fighting the wars of time and life. The leaves will fall when the winds are loud, and the snows of winter will weave his shroud. But he will never, never know anything more of leaves or snow. The summer tide of his life was past, and his hopes were fading, falling fast. His faults were many, his virtues few, a tempest with flecks of heaven's blue. He might have soared to the gates of light, but he built his nest with the birds of night. He glimmered apart in solemn gloom, like a dying lamp in a haunted tomb. He touched his lute with a magic spell, but all his melodies breathed of hell, raising the afrits and the ghouls, and the pallid ghosts of the damned souls. But he lies in dust, and the stone is rolled over his sepulchre, dark and cold. He has cancelled all he has done or said, and gone to the dear and holy dead. Let us forget the path he trod. He is done with us. He has gone to God. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
An Ocean Scene by Rabindranath Datta, read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. Now on the trembling main, half freaked with stars, half garlanded with scuds of mangled weeds, the light blue waves, wallowing and weltering, make and remake deep hollows, intervolved in volumes wide of flame-encumbered foam that topples over. Jove on Neptune smiles. November 1902. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
October by Paul Laurence Dunbar, read for LibriVox.org by Mary Patterson. October is the treasurer of the year, and all the months pay bounty to her store. The fields and orchards still their tribute bear, and fill her brimming coffers more and more. But she, with youthful lavishness, spends all her wealth in gaudy dress, and decks herself in garments bold, of scarlet, purple, red, and gold. She heedeth not how swift the hours fly, but smiles and sings her happy life along. She only sees above a shining sky, she only hears the breeze's voice in song. Her garments trail the woodland through, and gather pearls of early dew, that sparkle till the roguish sun creeps up and steals them every one. But what cares she that jewels should be lost, when all of nature's bounteous wealth is hers? Though princely fortunes may have been their cost, not one regret her calm demeanor stirs. Wholehearted, happy, careless, free, she lives her life out joyously, nor cares when frost stalks over her way, and turns her auburn locks to gray. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Pan the Fallen by William Wilfred Campbell, read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. Pan the Fallen. He wandered into the market with pipes and goatish hoof. He wandered in a grotesque shape, and no one stood aloof. For the children crowded round him, the wives and greybeards too, to crack their jokes and have their mirth, and see what Pan would do. The Pan he was, they knew him, part man, but mostly beast, who drank and lied, and snatched what bones men threw him from their feast, who seemed in sin so merry, so careless in his woe, that men despised, scarce pitied him, and still would have it so. He swelled his pipes and thrilled them, and drew the silent tear. He made the gravest clack with mirth by his sardonic leer. He blew his pipes full sweetly at their amused demands, and caught the scornful, earth-flung pence that fell from careless hands. He saw the mob's derision, and took it kindly too, and when an epithet was flung, a coarser back he threw. But under all the masking of a brute, unseemly part, I looked and saw a wounded soul, and a godlike breaking heart. And back of the elfin music, the burlesque clownish play, I knew a wail that the weird pipes made, a look that was far away, a gaze into some far heaven whence a soul had fallen down. But the mob only saw the grotesque beast and the antics of the clown. For scant flung pence he paid them with mirth and elfin play, till, tired for a time of his antics queer, they passed and went their way. Then there in the empty market he ate his scanty crust, and, tired face turned to heaven, down he laid him in the dust. And over his wild strange features a softer light there fell, and on his worn earth-driven heart a peace ineffable. And the moon rose over the market, but Pan the beast was dead, while Pan the god lay silent there, with his strange distorted head. And the people, when they found him, stood still with awesome fear. No more they saw the beast's rude hoof, the furtive clownish leer. But the lightest in that audience went silent from the place, for they knew the look of a god released that shone from his dead face. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Parson Gray by Oliver Goldsmith. Read for LibriVox.org by Peter Thomlinson. A quiet home had Parson Gray, secluded in a vale. His daughters were all feminine, and all his sons were male. How faithfully did Parson Gray the bread of life dispense, well posted in theology, and post and rail his fence. 'Gainst all the vices of the age he manfully did battle. His chickens were a biped breed, and quadruped his cattle. No clock more punctually went, he ne'er delayed a minute, nor ever empty was his purse, when he had money in it. His piety was ne'er denied, his truths hit saint and sinner. At morn he always breakfasted, he always dined at dinner. He ne'er by any luck was grieved, by any care perplexed. No filcher he, though when he preached, he always took a text. As faithful characters he drew as mortal ever saw. But poor parson, when he died, his breath he could not draw. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Excerpt from Pharsalia, Dramatic Episodes of the Civil Wars, by Lucan, 39 to 65 A.D. Read for LibriVox.org. Caesar has crossed the Alps, his mighty soul great tumults pondering and the coming shock. Now on the marge of Rubicon he saw, in face most sorrowful and ghostly guise, his trembling country's image. Huge it seemed through mists of night obscure, and hoary hair streamed from the lofty front with turrets crowned. Torn were her locks, and naked were her arms. Then thus with broken sighs the vision spoke: What seek ye, men of Rome, and whither hence bear ye my standards? If by right ye come, my citizens, stay here, these are the bounds, no further dare. But Caesar's hair was stiff with horror as he gazed, and ghastly dread restrained his footsteps on the further bank. Then spake he: Thunderer, who from the rock Tarpeian seest the wall of mighty Rome, gods of my race who watched o'er Troy of old, thou Jove of Elba's height, and Vestal fires, and rites of Romulus erst rapt to heaven, and godlike Rome, be friendly to my quest. Not with offense or hostile arms I'd come, thy Caesar, conqueror by land and sea, thy soldier here and wheresoe'er thou wilt. No others, his only be the guilt, whose acts make me thy foe. He gives the word and bids his standards cross the swollen stream. So in the wastes of Afric's burning clime the lion crouches as his foes draw near. feeding his wrath the while, his lashing tail provokes his fury, stiff upon his neck bristles his mane. Deep from his gaping jaws resounds a muttered growl, and should a lance or javelin reach him from the hunter's ring, scorning the puny scratch, he bounds afield. From modest fountain blood-red Rubicon in summer's heat flows on. His pygmy tide creeps through the valleys, and with slender marge divides the Italian peasant from the Gaul. Then winter gave him strength, and fraught with rain the third day's crescent moon, while eastern winds thawed from the Alpine slopes the yielding snow. The cavalry first form across the stream to break the torrent's force, the rest with ease beneath their shelter gain the further bank. When Caesar crossed and trod beneath his feet the soil of Italy's forbidden fields, "Here," spake he, "peace, here broken laws be left, farewell to treaties, fortune lead me on, war is our judge, and in the fates our trust." Then in the shades of night he leads the troops, swifter than Balearic sling or shaft, winged by retreating Parthian, to the walls of threatened Rimini, while fled the stars, save Lucifer before the coming sun, whose fires were veiled in clouds, by south wind driven, or else at heaven's command, and thus drew on the first dark morning of the Civil War. End of excerpt. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Prothalamium by Rabindranath Tata. Read for LibriVox.org by Newgatenovelist. A secret flash upon the lip, a flicker in the soul within, a glistening ray athwart the eye, awakened by the jocund din, a tender feeling that doth dip the future in a rosy light, and send up unto love on high the worship of a heart dew bright. Such are thine. No frost may nip the blossoms of this bridal day, that chain thee in a hallowed tie to her, thy heart's companion gay. May 1902. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Read for LibriVox.org by Phil Schempf. Life that shall send a challenge to its end, and when it comes say, "Welcome, friend." What the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. Tell me not in mournful numbers life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act, that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still, like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb-driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, howe'er pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the glorious present, heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footsteps on the sands of time. Footsteps that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Skeleton in Armor by Henry W. Longfellow, read for LibriVox.org by Sazja Sears. Speak, speak, thou fearful guest, who, with thy hollow breast still in rude armour dressed, comest to daunt me. Wrap not in Easter balms, but with thy fleshless palms stretched, as if asking alms, why dost thou haunt me? Then from those cavernous eyes pale flashes seem to rise, as when the northern skies gleam in December. And like the water's flow under December's snow came a dull voice of woe from the heart's chamber. I was a Viking old, my deeds, though manifold, no skald in song has told, no saga taught thee. Take heed that in thy verse thou dost the tale rehearse, else dread a dead man's curse, for this I sought thee. Far in the northern land, by the wild Baltic strand, I, with my childish hand, tamed the gerfalcon, and with my skates fast bound, skimmed the half-frozen sound that the poor whimpering hound trembled to walk on. Off to his frozen lair tracked I the grizzly bear, while from my path the hare fled like a shadow. Off through the forest dark followed the werewolf's bark, until the soaring lark sang from the meadow. But when I older grew, joining a corsair's crew, o'er the dark sea I flew with the marauders. Wild was the life we led, many the souls that sped, many the hearts that bled by our stern orders. Many a wassail bout wore the long winter out, often our midnight shout set the cocks crowing, and as we the berserk's tale measured in cups of ale, draining the oaken pail filled to overflowing. Once as I told in glee tales of the stormy sea, soft eyes did gaze on me, burning yet tender. And as the white stars shine on the dark Norway pine, on that dark heart of mine fell their soft splendor. I wooed the blue-eyed maid, yielding yet half afraid, and in the forest shade our vows were plighted. Under its loosened vests fluttered her little breast, like birds within their nest by the hawk frighted. Bright in her father's hall, shields gleamed upon the wall, loud sang the minstrels all, chanting his glory. When of old Hildebrand I asked his daughter's hand, mute did the minstrel stand to hear my story. While the brown ale he quaffed, loud then the champion laughed, and as the wind gusts waft the sea foam brightly, so the loud laugh of scorn, out of those lips unshorn, from the deep drinking horn blew the foam lightly. She was a prince's child, I but a Viking wild, and though she blushed and smiled, I was discarded. Should not the dove so white follow the sea-mew's flight? Why did they leave that night her nest unguarded? Scarce had I put to sea, bearing the maid with me, fairest of all was she among the Norsemen. When on the white sea strand, waving his armed hand, saw we old Hildebrand with 20 horsemen. Then launched they to the blast, bent like a reed each mast, yet we were gaining fast when the wind failed us, and with a sudden flaw came round the gusty skaw, so that our foe we saw laughed as he hailed us. And as to catch the gale, round veered the flapping sail. Death! was the helmsman's hail. Death without quarter! Midships with iron keel struck we her ribs of steel, down her black hulk did reel through the black water. As with his wings aslant sails the fierce cormorant, seeking some rocky haunt with his prey laden, so toward the open main, beating to sea again, through the wild hurricane bore I the maiden. 3 weeks we westward bore, and when the storm was o'er, cloud-like we saw the shore stretching to leeward. There for my lady's bower built I the lofty tower, which to this very hour stands looking seaward. There lived we many years, time dried the maiden's tears, she had forgotten her fears, she was a mother. Death closed her mild blue eyes, under that tower she lies, ne'er shall the sun arise on such another. Still grew my bosom then, still as a stagnant fen, hateful to me were men, the sunlight hateful. In the vast forest here, clad in my warlike gear, fell I upon my spear, oh, death was grateful. Thus, seamed with many scars, bursting these prison bars, up to its native stars my soul ascended. There from the flowing bowl deep drinks the warrior's soul. Skull to the Northland, skull! Thus the tale ended. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Song by Sir William Davenant, read for LibriVox.org by Grant Hicks. The lark now leaves his watery nest, and climbing shakes his dewy wings. He takes this window for the east, and to implore your light he sings, Awake, awake, the morn will never rise, till she can dress her beauty at your eyes. The merchant bows unto the seaman's star. The ploughman from the sun his season takes. But still the lover wonders what they are who look for day before his mistress wakes. Awake, awake, break through your veils of lawn, then draw your curtains and begin the dawn. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sonnet 130 by William Shakespeare, read for LibriVox.org by Grant Hicks. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes there is more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet on Taking a Favorite Walk After Recovery from Sickness by Thomas Oldham, read for LibriVox.org by Sonia. Sonnet on Taking a Favorite Walk After Recovery from Sickness. Ye scenes beloved, O welcome once again! Forbidden long to my desiring sight, now triumphant over disease and pain, I visit ye with fresh increased delight. Vine-mantled hills, whose heights I joyed to climb, the morn's sweet infant breathings to inhale, river, whose banks I roved in trance sublime, while fancy whispering eve spread soft her veil. And thou, O wood, in whose moon-checkered shade the nightly songstress oft has charmed my ear, till morning told me I so long had stayed. Hail all ye objects to my memory dear! Once more, to feel the transports ye impart, health wakes my every sense and tunes my heart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Testament by Francis Brett Young, read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. If I had died and never seen the dawn for which I hardly hoped, lighting this lawn of silvery grasses, if there had been no light, and last night merged into perpetual night, I doubt if I should ever have been content to have closed my eyes without some testament to the great benefits that marked my faring through the sweet world. For all my joy was sharing, and lonely pleasures were few, unto which end 3 legacies I'll send, 3 legacies already half possessed, one to a friend of all good friends the best, better than which is nothing, yet another unto thy twin, dissimilar spirit brother, the third to you, most beautiful, most true, most perfect one, to whom they all are due. Quick, quick, while there is time, best of friends, I leave you one sublime summer, one fadeless summer. 'Twas begun ere Costwall hawthorn tarnished in the sun, when hedges were fledged with green, and early swallows, swift darting on curved wings, pillaged the fallows, when all our vale was dappled blossom and light, and oh, the scent of bean fields in the night. You shall remember that rich dust at even which made old Evesham like a street in heaven, gold paved and washed within a wave of golden air, all her dreamy towers and gables olden. You shall remember how arms sun-blistered, hot palms cracked with rowing, clove the cool waters of Avon, sweetly flowing, and how our bodies, beautifully white, stretched to a long stroke lengthened in green light, and we, emerging, laughed in childish wise, and pressed the kissing water from our eyes. Ah, was our laughter childish, or were we wise? And then, crown of the day, attired returning with happy sunsets over Bredon burning, with music and with moonlight and good ale, and no thought of the morrow. Heavy phlox our garden's pathway bordered, and evening stalks those humble weeds in sunlight withered and pale, with a night scent to match the nightingale, gladdened with spiced sweetness, sweet night's shadows, meeting the breath of hay from mowing meadows. As humble was our joy, and as intense our rapture, so before I hurry hence, yours be the memory. One night again, when we were men and had striven and known pain, by a dark canal debating, unresigned, on the blind fate that shadows humankind, on the blind sword that severs human love. Then did the hidden belfry from above on troubled minds in benediction shed the patience of the great anonymous dead, who reared those towers, those high cathedrals builded in solemn stone, and with clear fancy gilded a beauty beyond ours, trusting in God. Then dared we follow the dark way they trod, and bowing to universal plan, trust in the true and fiery spirit of man. And you, my brother, you know as knows one other how my spirit revisiteth a room in high wing beneath pine trees, where gloom dwelleth dispelled by resinous wood embers, where in half darkness, how the heart remembers, we talked of beauty and those fiery things to which the divine desirous spirit clings, in winged rapture to that heaven flinging, where beauty is an easy thing, and singing the natural speech of man. Like kissing swords our wits clashed there, the brittle beauty of words breaking, seemed to discover its secret heart and all the rapt elusiveness of art. Now I have known sorrow, and now I sing that a lovely word is not an idle thing. For as with stars the cloth of night is spangled, with star-like words, most lovelily entangled, the woof of sombre thought is decked. Ah, bright and cold they glitter in the spirit's night, but neither distant nor dispassionate. For beauty is an armor against fate. I tell you, who have stood in the dark alone, seeing the face that turneth all to stone, Medusa blind with hate. While I was dying, beauty sate with me, nor tortured any longer. Gracious was she. To her soft words I listened, and was content to die, nor sorry that my light was spent. So, brother, if I come not home, go to that little room that my spirit revisiteth. And there, somewhere in the blue air, you shall discover that if you be a lover, nor haughtily minded, all that once half shaped then fled us and escaped, all that I found that day, far, so far away. And you, my lovely one, what can I leave to you, who you, having left, am utterly bereft? What in my store of visionary dowers is not already yours? What silences, what hours of peace passing all understanding, days made lyric by your beauty and its praise, years neither time can tarnish nor death mar, wherein you shined as steadfast as a star. In my bleak night, heedless of the cloud rack scudding in torn fleeces black, of my dark moods as those who rule the far star-haunted pleasaunces of heaven are. So think but lightly of that afternoon with white clouds climbing a blue sky in June, where a boy worshipped under dreaming trees, who touched your hand and sought your eyes. Ah, cease not these, nor yet those nights when icy Brethay thundered under his bridges, and ghostly mountains wondered at the white blossoming of a Christmas rose, more stainless than their snows, nor even of those placid days together, mellow as early autumn's amber weather, when beech is ankleted with fire, and old elms wear their livery of yellow gold, when orchards are all laden with increase, and the quiet earth has fruited and knows peace. O think not overmuch of those sweet years, lest their last fruit be tears, your tears, beloved, that were my utmost pain. But rather dream again how that a lover, half poet and half child, an eager spirit of fragile fancies wild, compact adored the beauty and truth in you. To your own truth be true, and when, not mournfully, you turn this page, consider still your starry heritage, continue in your loveliness, a star to gladden me from afar, even when there is no light in my last night. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Testimony Regarding a Ghost by Carl Sandburg. Read for LibriVox.org by Thomas Peter. The roses slanted crimson sobs on the night sky hair of the women, and the long light-fingered men spoke to the dark-haired women. Nothing lovelier, nothing lovelier. How could he sit there among us all, guzzling blood into his guts, goblets, mugs, buckets, leaning, toppling, laughing, with a slobber on his mouth, a smear of red on his strong raw lips? How could he sit there and only 2 or 3 of us see him? There was nothing to it. He wasn't there at all, of course. The roses leaned from the pots. The sprays snot roses gold and red, and the roses slanted crimson sobs in the night sky hair, and the voices chattered on the way to the frappe, speaking of pictures, speaking of a strip of black velvet crossing a girlish woman's throat, speaking of the mystic music flash of pots and sprays of roses. Nothing lovelier, nothing lovelier. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Thanatopsis by William Cullen Bryant. Read for LibriVox.org by Grant Hicks. To him who in the love of nature holds communion with her visible forms, she speaks a various language. For his gayer hours she has a voice of gladness and a smile and eloquence of beauty, and she glides into his darker musings with a mild and healing sympathy that steals away their sharpness ere he is aware. When thoughts of the last bitter hour come like a blight over thy spirit, and sad images of the stern agony and shroud and pall and breathless darkness and the narrow house make thee to shudder and grow sick at heart, go forth under the open sky and list to nature's teachings, while from all around, earth and her waters, and the depths of air, comes a still voice. Yet a few days, and thee the all-beholding sun shall see no more in all his course, nor yet in the cold ground, where thy pale form was laid with many tears, nor in the embrace of ocean shall exist thy image. Earth that nourished thee shall claim thy growth, to be resolved to earth again, and, lost each human trace, surrendering up thine individual being, shalt thou go to mix forever with the elements, to be a brother to the insensible rock and to the sluggish clod which the rude swain turns with his share and treads upon. The oak shall send his roots abroad and pierce thy mould. Yet not to thine eternal resting place shalt thou retire alone, nor couldst thou wish couch more magnificent. Thou shalt lie down with patriarchs of the infant world, with kings, the powerful of the earth, the wise, the good, fair forms and hoary seers of ages past, all in one mighty sepulchre. The hills, rock-ribbed and ancient as the sun, the vales stretching in pensive quietness between, the venerable woods, rivers that move in majesty, and the complaining brooks that make the meadows green, and, poured round all, old ocean's grey and melancholy waste, are but the solemn decorations all of the great tomb of man. The golden sun, the planets, all the infinite host of heaven are shining on the sad abodes of death through the still lapse of ages. All that tread the globe are but a handful to the tribes that slumber in its bosom. Take the wings of morning, pierce the Barcan wilderness, or lose thyself in the continuous woods where rolls the Oregon and hears no sound save his own dashings. Yet the dead are there, and millions in those solitudes, since first the flight of years began, have laid them down in their last sleep. The dead reign there alone. So shalt thou rest. And what if thou withdraw in silence from the living, and no friend take note of thy departure? All that breathe will share thy destiny. The gay will laugh when thou art gone. The solemn brood of care plod on, and each one as before will chase his favourite phantom. Yet all these shall leave their mirth and their employments, and shall come and make their bed with thee. As the long train of ages glide away, the sons of men, the youth in life's green spring, and he who goes in the full strength of years, matron and maid, the speechless babe and the grey-headed man, shall one by one be gathered to thy side by those who in their turn shall follow them. So live that when thy summons comes to join the innumerable caravan which moves to that mysterious realm where each shall take his chamber in the silent halls of death, thou go not like the quarry-slave at night, scourged to his dungeon, but, sustained and soothed by an unfaltering trust, approach thy grave like one who wraps the drapery of his couch about him and lies down to pleasant dreams. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. It little profits that an idle king by this still hearth among these barren craigs, matched with an aged wife, I mete and dole unequal laws unto a savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. All times I have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone, on shore, and when through scudding drifts the rainy Hyades vexed the dim sea. I am become a name. For always roaming with a hungry heart, much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not least, but honoured of them all, and drunk delight of battle with my peers far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. I am a part of all that I have met, yet all experience is an arch, where through gleams that untravelled world, whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life. Life piled on life were all too little, and of one to me little remains. But every hour is saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things. And vile it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself, and this grey spirit yearning and desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the sceptre and the isle well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labour by slow prudence, to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Most blameless is he, centred in the sphere of common duties, decent not to fail in offers of tenderness, and pay meet adoration to my household gods when I am gone. He works his work, I mine. There lies the port, The vessel puffs her sail, there gloom the dark broad seas. My mariners, souls that have toiled and wrought and fought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and the sunshine, and opposed free hearts, free foreheads, you and I are old. Old age hath yet his honour and his toil, death closes all, but something ere the end, some work of noble note may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks, the long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Werewolves by William Wilfred Campbell. Read for LibriVox.org by Nemo. The Werewolves. They hasten, still they hasten, from the even to the dawn. Their tired eyes gleam and glisten under north skies white and wan. Each panter in the darkness is a demon-haunted soul, the shadowy, phantom werewolves who circle round the pole. Their tongues are crimson flaming, their haunted blue eyes gleam, and they strain them to the utmost o'er frozen lake and stream. Their cry one note of agony that is neither yelp nor bark, these panters of the northern waste who hound them to the dark. You may hear their hurried breathing, you may see their fleeting forms, at the pallid polar midnight when the north is gathering storms. When the Arctic frosts are flaming and the ice-field thunders roll, these demon-haunted werewolves who circle round the pole. They hasten, still they hasten, across the northern night, filled with a frighted madness, a horror of the light. Forever and forever, like leaves before the wind, they leave the wan white gleaming of the dawning far behind. Their only peace is darkness, their rest to hasten on into the heart of midnight, forever from the dawn. Across far phantom ice floes, the eye of night may mark these horror-haunted werewolves who hound them to the dark. All through this hideous journey, they are the souls of men who in the far dark ages made Europe one black fen. They fled from courts and convents and bound their mortal dust with demon wolfish girdles of human hate and lust. These who could have been godlike chose each a loathsome beast amid the heart's foul graveyards on putrid thoughts to feast. But the great God who made them gave each a human soul, and so midnight forever they circle round the pole. A praying for the blackness, a longing for the night, for each is doomed forever by a horror of the light. And far in the heart of midnight, where their shadowy flight is hurled, they feel with pain the dawning that creeps in round the world. Under the northern midnight, the white glint ice upon, they hasten, still they hasten, with their horror of the dawn. Forever and forever, into the night away, they hasten, still they hasten unto the judgment day. End a poem. This recording is in the public domain.